Yeah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم نور قلوبنا بنور القرآن والإيمان والإسلام آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Selamun aleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuhu. Inshallah, let's start. Sorry for being a little late as usual. And also for online participants. So if you could give us a quick feedback on how we sound. I know the video is not best right now, doesn't matter. But if you can hear us well, that is enough. Just a quick feedback would be great. Thumbs up or just saying something. Otherwise, I just assume that the sound is right. Okay, thank you. Jazakallah khairan. Let's start, inshallah. We will go over story of Hud alayhi salam, or nation of Ad. And our main theme would be, who is your Lord? And inshallah, you will see why this is the main theme when we go through the story of Hud alayhi salam. Since we are late, maybe we should directly go to the story. Let's start with, you have the better angle, I guess you can read.
I can read it.
Yes.
You need that.
Yes. We only say that some of our gods have possessed you with evil.
Oh, wait a second. There's, yes.
So, and to Ad, their brother Hud, he said, "O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than Him. You are not but inventors of falsehood. O my people, I do not ask for you any reward. My reward is only from the one who created me. Then will you not reason? And O my people, ask forgiveness of your Lord, and then repent to Him. He will send rain from the sky upon you in showers and increase you in strength, added to your strength. And do not turn away, being criminals." They said, "O Hud, you have not brought us clear evidence, and we are not ones to leave our gods on your say-so, nor are we believers in you. We only say that some of our gods have possessed you with evil." He said, "Indeed, I call Allah to witness, and witness yourselves that I am free from whatever you associate with Allah other than Him. So plot against me altogether, then do not give me respite. Indeed, I have relied upon Allah, my Lord and your Lord. There is no creature but that He holds its forelock. Indeed, my Lord is on a path that is straight. But if they turn away, say, I have already conveyed that which I was sent to you. My Lord will give succession to a people other than you, and you will not harm him at all. Indeed, my Lord is over all things guardian." And when our command came, we saved Hud, and those who believed with him by mercy from us, and we saved them from a harsh punishment. And that was Ad, who rejected the signs of their Lord and disobeyed his messengers and followed the order of every obstinate tyrant. And they were followed in this world with a curse and on the day of resurrection. For sure, Ad denied their Lord. For sure, ruined are Ad, the people of Hud.
So we also have the same story from Surah Araf. Let's read the same story from there as well. But of course, the perspective will change a little bit. The different emphases on the same story. So yeah, let's go.
And to the Ad we sent their brother Hud. He said, "O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than Him. Then will you not fear Him? Said the eminent ones who disbelieved among his people, indeed we see you in foolishness, and indeed we think you are of the liars. Hud said, O my people, there is not foolishness in me, but I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. I convey to you the messages of my Lord, and I am to you a trustworthy advisor. I convey to you the messages of my Lord, and I am to you a trustworthy advisor. Then do you wonder that there has come to you a reminder from your Lord through a man from among you, that he may warn you? And remember when he made you successors after the people of Noah, and increased you in stature extensively. So remember the favors of Allah, that you might succeed. They said, have you come to us that we should worship Allah alone and leave what our fathers have worshipped? Then bring us what you promise us, if you should be of the truthful. Hud said, already have punishment and anger fallen upon you from your Lord. Do you dispute with me concerning mere names you have named them, you and your fathers, for which Allah has not sent down any authority? Then wait, indeed, I am with you among those who wait. So we saved him and those with him by mercy from us, and we cut off the roots of those who denied our signs, and they were not at all believers.
Jazakallah. That was a beautiful reading. Alhamdulillah. So we are done. Jazakallah. See you all in session 2. Before we start with the first part of the story, so let me put it just a little bit back if you don't mind. Otherwise we will have difficulty. Okay. Let's start, inshallah. Any comments, questions so far about the story? You read the story. I'm sure you read it before 100 times anyway, right? So any comments, initial opening remarks? Okay, let's start, inshallah. So in this first session, so we will have 3 sessions as usual. And in the first session, we will cover the topic as we call the false names, the part that we read at on the last slide, I guess, the names that you and your fathers invent. So the first session would be about the false idols, the names that we invent. And then the second session would be life with these false idols under their rulings. What kind of life personally or as a humanity collectively we live, we experience when we make up such names. And the third session will be, inshallah, kind of a solution that Quran suggest us. So again, in this first session, we will go through some false idols. And let's go through that. Let's see the first ayah. This is from Araf, we read it. And we have a different version of the same surah, the same ayah, in at least 3 different places in Quran. So I'm telling this, and we will show you 2 more examples. I'm telling this to realize, so that you realize that how important it is. The same phrase, you see this asma in Sammaytumuha and the remaining part. Exactly same thing, repeated at least 3 times in Quran. And I say at least 3 times, there might be more, I couldn't check. So it's that importance, right? And then what comes next of this phrase explains it in a different way in every time it is repeated, and we will see, inshallah. Should we start?
قال قد وقع عليكم من ربكم رجس وغضب أتجادلونني في أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما نزل الله بها من سلطان فانتظروا إني معكم من المنتظرين. From Surah Araf, from story of Hud alayhi salam, Hud said, already have punishment and anger fallen upon you from your Lord. do you dispute with me about names you have named them, you and your fathers, for which Allah has not sent down any authority? Then wait, indeed I am with you among those who wait.
Let's read the other two versions as well, and then you can.
And this is from Surah Yusuf. And this is part of the conversation between Yusuf alayhi salam and his friends in the prison. ما تعبدون من دونه إلا أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان إن الحكم إلا لله أمر ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. You worship not besides him except mere names you have named them, you and your forefathers, your fathers, for which Allah has sent down no authority. Legislation is not but for Allah. Ruling is not for anyone but for Allah. He has commanded that you worship not except him. That is the correct religion. That is the upright religion, but most of the people do not know. This is from Surah Yusuf, verse number 40. And from Surah Najm, إن هي إلا أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان يتبعون إلا الظن وما تهوى الأنفس ولقد جاءهم من ربهم الهدى. They are not but mere names you have named them, you and your forefathers, for which Allah has sent down no authority. They follow not except assumption and what their souls desire, and there has already come to them from their Lord guidance.
And maybe we can read this as well, this you are not but inventors part, and then go back to me.
Okay.
Maybe.
This is from Surah Hud. So we are going back to Hud alayhi salam's story. وَإِلَىٰ عَادٍ أَخَاهُمْ هُودًا قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا مُفْتَرُونَ. And to Ad, we sent their brother Hud. He said, O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than him. You are not but inventors of falsehood. Like muftarun in here is slandering. So somebody who is making up accusations about someone. So what you are making is invention of falsehood.
So, as you can see, the same here we have these names, you have named them, you and your fathers, for which Allah has sent down no authority. And the other two places, what comes after it, kind of open it. Like what it means here, we see that the ruling is not but for Allah. So kind of telling us that, that when you make up these such names, you kind of distribute the ruling to other things as well. But here there's a correction, and it's only for Allah. And he has commanded you worship not except him. So making up names, it's always, linked to the worshiping. And then here, we see that, especially with the part they follow not except assumption and what their souls desire, is again opens up what these names may be corresponding to. And we will, inshallah, discuss this in details. So, yeah, it's yours.
So let's start from here. When we say, so those people, messenger comes with a message, says, worship Allah, and comes with the message of Tawheed. And to his people, he is telling them that what you're doing is nothing but names. So let's try to make this relatable. If Hud alayhi salam was to come today, his message is not going to be any different, actually. What he would say would perfectly apply to today. This is why that message is in Quran, since it's also applicable to us. I mean, it's not like a time-bound message, right? So in our society, if Hud alayhi salam comes and says, as we are now on a university campus, what you are worshiping is nothing but made-up names, what would that correspond to? Like today, what is the name that we worship, for example?
So, I mean, I would say I don't have any name that I worship, right? Especially if I consider myself as a Muslim, I would say I worship only Allah. But again, as you said, I read this ayah and it is there. Like, even if I claim every day, every moment, I don't worship anything but Allah, I don't worship anything but Allah, Quran doesn't think so.
Or, I mean, let's not go that
Okay.
hardcore yet, because it's going to be disturbing. Let's not disturb that much yet. So let's say since you are working at university, in there, a friend of yours, and you are claiming this, and he says, well, yeah, maybe my Christian friend, he worships Jesus. Ha ha ha, I don't. Your friend says this, and he's not Muslim, he's atheist. And as an atheist, he's denying God in the first place. So he's technically not worshiping anyone. But this verse is now coming and saying that you're worshiping something, and what you're worshiping is nothing but names. So what is the names that an quote unquote atheist worships to? Then we can come back to Muslim as well, but let's start from there, which is an easier case. Since it's outside, nobody's going to have hurt feelings.
So one thing comes to my mind is, things like the exercise, for instance. I have this exercise, I name it, I know what it is, I put the boundaries and say that, if you do push up 5 times or 10 times, this is good, otherwise it's not. And it will bring me health. So my health is in the hands of this exercising, for instance.
Mhm.
Or because you said the university, I have this very, very, it's like I would say quintessential example of made up name is the title. Right? The Bachelor in Science, PhD, whatever you call. Any title is just a made up thing. It's just, and I almost kill myself to get them.
Yeah. So, I'm going to take it a little more traditional understanding. We'll get to there again. But when we say ilah, what comes to my mind is maintainer, because there are some phenomena that I'm not able to explain. And I'm saying that, God does this, God creates this, right? So as a Muslim, we say Allah creates everything and whatnot. So this is really the general understanding or notion of ilah. So in today's society, let's say in the university or anywhere, what is ilah? There's no ilah, it happens by itself. But when we say it happens by itself, what do we mean really? When we say, this falls, we say, gravity. We give it a name, and we feel like we explained it. Just giving it a name is, this falls because of gravity. That's as simple as that. Or we come up with something else. I don't know, just give it. As we were discussing the other day, over Friday, last week. Water is coming from the sky. It's so vital, so important for me. And I would say, how come the water comes? It's so interesting way of a transportation and coming to everybody's house with this drop by drop. I say, very simple, water cycle. Just putting a name over there, and I feel like I explained it. Do I worship it? Yes, this is how I explain the phenomena, and I am feeling like, this is what brings it to me. So, for example, I need to maintain the nature. I need to maintain, I am now being responsible to maintain all this stuff. And if I am in need of water, then I'm trying to find a way to throw a rain bomb so that I receive the rain from the skies. These are just very, I know, external, but maybe easier cases of explanation for which we simply give it a name, and we feel like we explain the phenomena. So when Huda Salam comes and says, what you are saying is nothing but names, giving it a name doesn't explain anything really. So this is what we in-depth discuss over the past 2 Fridays. Just saying that it is water cycle doesn't mean a single thing. It's just a name that you gave to something happening there. You observe frame by frame something is happening. You give it a name for what that frame by frame happening is, and you feel like I explained how it happens. you didn't explain how it happened. You just give the name of somebody making the job, but you didn't explain anything about who makes it, how he makes it, why he makes it, anything of that sort. So giving it a name, although we feel like it is now less mystical now, didn't answer anything. It is just putting a name on top of it. I feel like as if, oh, I explained it, no more mystery there. Now I can go my way. So as if in here, especially with the next part, Ma nazzala Allah biha min sultan part, maybe we should focus on that part. Merely naming a phenomena that's happening right in front of my eyes, is there any sultan in there? What does sultan signify here? Like a name without a sultan, with a sultan, what would be the distinction between the two?
Oh, I thought you. No, you can answer.
I mean, one has the sanction of the one who created it behind it, and the other one does not. So you said the one that has the name with sultan, and the one that has a name without sultan.
Mm-hmm.
So the one with sultan is the one who fashioned it and brought it into being, and then agreed with that name. That's what comes to mind.
I will take back my microphone. I didn't like your answer.
Doesn't mean it's not right.
So let things put in the context. So within this story and within our lives, somebody's coming and telling you that, Yusuf, what you are doing is wrong. You shouldn't worship anything but Allah. Just the other day, yesterday, I guess. Yeah, it was yesterday. Somebody came to me, actually. Somebody came to me, I was throwing my trash, putting in the trash bin, and some gentleman came and told me that I was on the wrong path. I should follow this religion of his, doesn't matter the content. And I was warned, right? He gave me this piece of paper explaining things. I said, thank you. He saw me with my, all this, what is it called in turban in English? Turban and everything. And then like he was about to explain his religion and then saw my turban and everything. And he said, oh, if you are not interested, I will understand. From my look, he didn't want to continue. I said, no, give it to me. I want to read. But anyway, there was a call in my life to give me, let's say, a better life, maybe, or save me from something, or teach me the truth, whatever it is. And we have these moments all the time. It doesn't need to be some like evangelical person trying to save you. Your professors will also try to save you all the time. Your parents will try to save you all the time, giving you some explanations. In our case, it's, let's say, an explanation in the bigger scale. What you are doing here, why you are doing it, where are you coming from, where are you going through, and so on. There is such an explanation. And in return, I say, what are you talking about? I already know the answer. Mm-hmm. So this is the attitude as far as I see, I don't know what you think, but I say, I already know the answer. Like Yusuf comes and tells me, Birkan, don't you see you are getting older, right? I mean, look at you, everything is changing constantly. There must be something behind it. You are changing. Don't you think this is interesting? He says. And I say, what are you talking about? It's aging, right? I throw a name and I normalized it. And then her daughter gets sick and she's upset. Something's happening in the family. And I go to him and tell him that, Yusuf, there's a change here. Something is happening here. It's a dramatic event. Don't you think there's a meaning behind it? There's a message there. And he says, what are you talking about? It's sickness. It is called the response of the immune system. And then Haidar comes as a doctor. He says, yes, he is true. It is immune system. This is, a true 3-volume of books he put, on my desk, and say that if you want to learn more about it, here, 3 volumes or 3-volume of names. If you memorize them, you will understand what's going on with your daughter, he says.
And this is normal.
Exactly.
Like, this is how children behave when they are sick. As simple as that.
And this is how parents feel when their children is sick, because there's also feeling in you, right? And I'm trying to touch upon this feeling. Yusuf, don't you think there's sadness trying to tell you something? And he says, no, it's virus. And then immune system, put them together, mix them, and you have these feelings. So it's all about names all the time. And we do this, whether you are a believer or not, doesn't matter. We do this all the time.
And it looks like by giving a name to something, we feel like we understood what's going on there. We don't need to explore further. We are done with it. And this is, it becomes, in this case, our explanation of existence. This is why it is worshiping. Like, normally, the existence is such a big question mark for human, which we observe with the babies. They explore, they keep exploring, they try to understand. And this is what we do with the children all the time, right? So my daughter says, why is this yellow? I say, because. Sometimes I do not even find names because it's being too hard to make up that many names. I simply say, because. So this is how it becomes. This is, at best, I put a name. Whenever she asks a question, I just give a name. And then if she asks another why, I say there's no more why. That's it. That's the explanation. No more why. So giving names without Sultan doesn't explain it. So I guess this is names with Sultan, names without Sultan. What would that mean? You have a comment?
Or you have to use microphone if you have a comment, by the way. Please don't.
Recently, I've actually been thinking about the cause of why we give names. Well, I haven't thought of the word names at that time, but logically, when we say that this building is made with all these engineers and the cement and science and people who did PhD for many years, right? Then when you tell someone that this happened by itself, or a jar of medicine just happens by itself, it becomes very illogical, right? But then to accept that everything else, the creation just happened by itself by giving them names or attributes to the causes, it seemed like, how are we not accepting things to not happen by themselves in what we are doing, right? Like you need all these people to do this construction or medicine, but then we give the rest of all the creation to just happen by themselves naturally or through causes or whatever we say, those names that we're talking about, attributes of Allah, and we just give it a name. So I was like, I think there's a very big logical error here. And that this idea came to me that probably what we're taught as science is not true logic. And that is the cause of the issue, I think, that, in Islamic logic, it teaches us about the reality of life and how to think truly of the universe, right? And I think they're not teaching us true logic. They're teaching us illogical things, right? And it's contradicting. So, and that's how you see all the society just accepting things the way they are without really questioning anything. And then one other thing that came to my mind was like the meaning of worship. What is worship? Because you were saying that we don't even realize, even as Muslims, that we are worshiping these names in a way, right? And maybe that's another topic, like what does it mean? Like what we give most importance in our hearts or not. Also, let me see, and then I thought of the names, like it's just saying all you're doing is just giving names, right? So I was thinking like, okay, what is names? We're just describing what is already created. So creation cannot be the creator. And all we're doing is just describing the created by whatever it happened and how it happened with materials. But we're not actually explaining the prince or the sultan, like who did it, the creator, and why he did it. These are like the most important questions. And when we're just through science, like we're just taught to think not logical, but we're just taught to think what happened and how it happened and just describing mere things and giving them names as if that's actually a true explanation of who did it and why he did it. So that's what it sounds like. Like we're just describing what is already existing. It's not like we are describing or witnessing, like if someone did create something from scratch, he claims to be a creator, then that's something else. But all we're doing is just using whatever's already existing. And then, those are some of the, exactly.
So, for the Sultan parts, and again, since the example was with science and whatnot, and recently that earthquake happened in my hometown. So a big event is happening, an earthquake is happening, a large number of people were killed, and much more of a material destruction there. What happens? Oh, it is the tectonic plates moved, and then some collapse happened and people died. As simple as that would become our explanation of what is happening there. We give a name to something that we observe, like it is, if you call it tectonic plates, if you just call it land moved or land, just we put a name over there, and oh, is it okay? Now I understood. Becomes our attitude, our response. And since I stopped there, I mean, it's just two plates, right? What further can you look into that? Just two plates moving, and yeah, it makes perfect sense, right? So I have a weapon here. And then this poor Zarar is killed. And then Kadir asks, what happened? I say, well, it is just, the gunpowder heated up, and then bullet went out, as easy as that. What are you talking about? So, oh yeah, now I understood. It's just the gunpowder getting heated up. And so explaining or putting some name into something that's happening in there becomes, and I stop there. Since there's a name, I stop there. And this is what is happening here. Or Hud alayhi salam is saying that you throw some name onto what's going on, and then you don't go any further because it becomes your explanation. It becomes now your sacred. Because I'm saying, oh, now I understand what's going on in here. And if I want to do something, I will just heat up another gunpowder, and now Qadir is gone. So it becomes my way of explaining life, living life, hence worshiping. Because it's now my truth. It's becoming my truth, although it doesn't have any basis. So Sultan in here, can it be that having any basis? Like my explanation of Zarar's death is, does the gunpowder portion has anything to do with, in actuality, Zarar's death? Or is it me intentionally taking the trigger in that metaphorical example? But if you would like to take it even further, we can even talk about whether really gunpowder is doing anything, because Sultan in here, Nazalallahu biha min Sultan, the creator, since the mention here is to Allah, the creator, the source of existence, didn't give any authority to it, meaning he didn't give any. Do you observe any godly qualities on that name that you give? Giving authority sounds to me like there's a king, and then I have Qadir as a subordinate, and I'm going to send Qadir to such a city and say that go and annihilate them, okay? But I'm not giving you any authority, just go there. I mean, if you go there by yourself, you cannot do anything. But if I tell you that I gave you authority, go there, execute my commands, then you will do something. So now I do see some names, I give some names to things. The verse is, I mean, Hud alayhi salam is asking me, do you see any authority in the name? The thing that you named, do you see any authority in there? Does it have the ability to carry out anything? In other words, is it able to do that? Which sounds very much like, just to make it a little more familiar, and you can make it more real life example, but I might be thinking that, oh, God created fire, and now fire is burning, for example. In this sense, it sounds like God created a thing and gave authority to it, and now it's burning. If, for example, if we have such an understanding, It's again another thing in which we say, oh, fire burns, or that medicine cures. What that is, it's a name, but that name has an authority given by its creator. Hud alayhi salam is challenging this even for the Muslim then. Do you feel like it has an authority, has taken an authority? Does it have the sultan in it? The creator does not give any authority, it says. And I need to, of course, observe and see if fire has the authority to burn, or any of the names that I do in my life, which you gave nice examples. And
I give
like,
it's the other way around.
no, carry it out from there. Like with the names that we give in our lives, do I see any authority on those names? Like in my personal life, I do say that, oh, it happens, like with the example of a, let's say, a child misbehaving when the child is sick. So I say, oh, it is because the child is sick. Hud alayhi salam says, does sickness have an authority to make your child misbehave? Or is it just that you observe something and you give it a name? Like I see that Abdurrahman comes in and with a, with a tray of baklava here. If only, okay. And I say, oh,
You still have time.
and I call it, oh, hospitality. I give it a name. This is hospitality. So does the name hospitality enforce Abdurrahman to do something, or Abdurrahman does something and I just give it a name? Like, is it an external thing that forces Abdurrahman to do that thing, or is it I do observe somebody willfully taking some, making a choice, taking an action, executing this with his power, and just that I give it a name. So we are generally taking it the other way around in practice. We give it a name and we start tending to think that that name is an actor. Sickness is the actor. Gravity is the actor. Earthquake is the actor. Or the medicine is the actor. So Hud alayhi salam is saying that nothing but Allah has authority. And Allah didn't give any authority to the sickness, to earthquake, to hospitality, or anything of that sort. He is the one who acts. He didn't reveal or send down any authority. He is the one, he is the one in action in every single step. So this perfectly applies to my atheist friend in university, but it much maybe more serious than that, it perfectly applies to me as well. And this is what I'm doing when I have this conversation with my daughter. When she asks something, why is the sun yellow? I say, well, because sun is yellow. Or why is it hot now? Or because it's summer. Like all these sort of giving names is what we do the whole time.
And I'm asking myself, like, what is wrong with this? Like giving names, this is how human brain functions anyway. And I say, as long as there's a fit between reality and the names I give, like your gunpowder example, for instance, yeah, there is gunpowder, there is heat, there is movement, there is bullet. What is wrong with this? And nothing wrong with this. So when we say, for instance, the true names or names with authority, so I guess the Quran is doing here a very nice thing. Instead of saying that they are not, like they are just named, like they are false names. It doesn't say false names, for instance. It says they are names without authority. So it doesn't matter whether the names that I give accurately captures the description in front of me or not. Like why it is hot, because it's summer, you say, right? And it is really summer. There's nothing wrong with this. I guess the problem is when you hear this name summer, your mind functions in a way that there's nothing further to explore anymore. And I'm fine with it.
Summer is something that can do certain things, which in this case
Exactly.
is heating the environment. As if summer is if I were to narrate this as, oh, such and such African tribe who lives in a god of summer, which heats up the environment, you would laugh at me. You would say that, oh, those, I mean, they are just some African tribes and they are not civilized and whatnot. But when you say, oh, it is hot because it is summer, I use a cause over there. I mean, as if the summer is causing it being hot, it is identical. But I am using this, forming this sentence with all the civilized education. So it is still the same thing, still the name. For them, it's clearly an imaginary god or like spirit, whatever, which they say, oh, god of summer, which heats up the environment in that period of time. But when I say it's after the secular, material, and civilized education, still the same thing.
Can I get it back? So then there's a verse, I know it's going to probably coming up, where so if the first human was taught these names, and then, so on and so forth, are these the names that have sultan? And if so, how do we learn these names?
So that's a great point, like going back to sultan part. So it says, Ma nazzalallahu biha min sultan, right? So Allah didn't send down any authority with them, for them. So how we understand this, because I guess this is the key part to separating names with sultan, names without sultan. So when we read such a verse in the Quran, we cannot simply say that, oh, Allah didn't send any authority, as if we can imagine Allah sending down something and something abstract like authority. And they don't have authority. Why? Because Allah said so in His Quran. It doesn't work. So Allah, when He mentions Himself, He would say, Allah didn't send down sultan. It's Allah talking there, right? But when it comes to us, we cannot understand it this way. We cannot read it and just repeat it. Allah didn't send down any sultan. So this is a call for us, saying that if you look at the reality, if you look at your life, you will not find any authority there. That's what it means. Study the creation, study your life, study the names that you gave, and you will not find authority there. That's what it means. So you have to search for authority. So maybe one practical example, nowadays we give all examples with our daughters. May Allah forgive us, and then they forgive us when they got older, if they watch these videos and so on. Anyway, so let's say your daughter, my daughter wouldn't do this, such things. Your daughter being nasty, just crying, doing, the crazy things, whatever. And then your wife gets so angry. She cannot stand this, right? And then somebody asks, like a brother Ali Dede comes to your house and say, what's going on? Why you are so angry? And she says, because she's acting nasty. And everything is explained. She's acting nasty, and then she's angry. There's nothing further. It is explained. And Brother Ali says, but do you think this explanation, this nastiness, has any authority? Like, does it really, can it really cause you to get mad? And she says, of course, every time she gets nasty, I get mad. And every mother I saw so far, I've seen in my life, they always get angry. And Brother Ali says, but how about Yusuf? And Yusuf just, doesn't care, just playing with the computer, doing his job. It's the same environment, same child, the same sound waves, whatever it is.
Same nastiness.
Same nastiness. And maybe, his, the glasses are better than wife's glasses, so he even sees, the sharper. maybe his ears, even, the more acute, whatever it is called. So why he's not angry? Brother Ali says, here comes another explanation, because he doesn't care. And all fathers, they don't care. Right? Two names, the nastiness, or a few names, nastiness, mother, anger, whatever. And everything is explained. And this keeps repeating. Again, in your house, not in our house. This keeps repeating, let's say, every day, every week, whatever. Any lesson? Did you get any lesson out of it? What lesson you're talking about? Like Hud, in this example, Brother Ali, telling them, you should, see this event as something to learn
Of a source of authority.
Yes, sort of, exactly. Yes, source of authority. But you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time with throwing up names that they don't have any authority. And you don't get anything out of it. It's just waste of time for you.
Yeah, exactly. And this also reminds me another word without authority. Again, as mentioned in Quran, so I will refer to it. It's a discussion in depth in and of itself. But when Satan says, when people accuse Satan, oh, you misguided us, he says, my word didn't have any authority on you. So, and this is Satan is saying this. Very interesting. Like the same thing. What does Satan do? Comes up with a suggestion. Goes and says to Qadir, shoot Zarar from the head. And Zarar, since he's not sitting next to me, here's the guy for today's examples.
Let's say this is his head, like a forehead.
So it is just a word that it's a suggestion. It's just a word. It doesn't have any authority compelling you to do anything. You make the choice. You do things, right? Names without authority, you just give it a name. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't function. It is just you put a label on something that's taking place, and then you say, oh, this is why it happens, right? If Zarar is the best of two cooks, and when he gets into the kitchen, he just miraculously cooks the best biryani, and I put a name to that, oh, this is biryani mastery. Just give it a flashy name.
He's from Pakistan. Everyone from Pakistan knows how to cook biryani.
Yeah, something like this. Then Zarar is going to be super mad at me because he says, I do all of these with precise measurements and utmost care, and I'm all over the kitchen for the past 5 hours, and you just call it the simple word, and then you say, oh, it's as simple as that. This is called biryani mastery. I mean, the word doesn't mean anything. The word is just, I am the one acting in here. You are just nullifying all what I am doing here and replacing it with a word which doesn't carry any authority, which doesn't do anything, which doesn't cook the food. It's just a name. So we and our fathers, this is not something that you come up with. This is how we have been. This is what my daughter is learning from me. She asks, why is it raining? I gave a name to her. Humidity. I say it is water cycle. And once she grows up, her daughter eventually asks her, why is it raining, Mama? She would say, well, it is water cycle. Or it rains because it rains. So this giving names is going down generations to generations. Prophets come with a suggestion to let's break this chain. This doesn't make any sense. Giving it names, and just because it has been given names doesn't make it more true. Oh yeah, for the past 10 centuries, we have been calling it a water cycle. So what? It is as useless as it has been 10 centuries ago. Whomever called it for the first time as water cycle, it was nonsense then. It is equally nonsense right now too. So this is what Hud alayhi salam is making us to put ourselves to question. I mean, I started with an atheist just so that it's outside and we poo-poo them first and then we say, ha, 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 look at them. And now see the parallelism with us and them and say, oh, it's as funny when it is on me too. So it is as disturbing and as unsatisfactory in my case too.
There's a comment over there. And then after the comment, I will share the conspiracy theory of the century. So be ready.
All right, quite the suspense. Jazakallah khair. I guess I have a question. I'm trying to practicalize this. So I'm drinking this tea, right? And just and I say to my good friend, my good sister Aisha, I say, "Oh, this tea feels so good when I'm congested." And she says, "No, look, we are learning from the story of Hud alayhi salam that it's just a name. It doesn't have any authority to make you feel that way." And I want to appear religious to her and pious to her, and I say, "Oh, you're right. It doesn't have any authority, but it doesn't change my experience." I take another sip. It still feels good. But I've just kind of preserved my image towards her, maybe. So how is this going to change? I can say, okay, yes, the Quran says it doesn't have authority. It doesn't name. I can do that. But how does this change my experience of it? Practically, what is being changed or transformed in my life if I were to accept this? Or how can I confirm this?
I will leave the decision to answer this question or not to Yusuf. But to my understanding, we will study this in the third session, how things will change. But again, it's your session officially, so you can. I would only want to emphasize one thing in this session and in this part of the story. I guess the important part, at least the part that we're trying to highlight, is facing your true self. Right? This is what you are. This is what we do all the time, giving names, making up names. First, I guess we have to accept this fact. We have to see that most of the names that we give doesn't have authority. And this is not an easy job. This is not an easy thing, because as Yusuf said, it's not only you, but antum wa aba'ukum. You and your fathers. It's not only just Zechariah is doing. The entire generation of people has been doing the same thing. So just because Zechariah now read this ayah and let's say agree with our understanding of the ayah, it wouldn't change things even for him just in the moment. So first, I guess we have to face with this reality. The names are always there, and they are always made up names with no authority. Again, with no authority, meaning, so in your example, for instance, there's a tea, a liquid, and there's this feeling that I have, the satisfaction I have, the taste I get. The question is, do you see a balance between the two? The outcome, the taste, satisfaction, all the experience you go through, and this liquid. As Ibrahim alayhi salam did in his story, put both of them in the scale and see whether one side is, the heavier or not. And Quran says this outcome part, what you attribute them will be always much heavier than the names that you come up with. The tea, you wouldn't see any quality in tea that can give you such a satisfaction. Or the cup, or whatever you are holding. So this is what I understand from with no authority. If you question it, if you, try to understand whether the qualities I see there match the name. So a kid been doing nasty things, and I have this anger. Even I cannot control my anger. Even I cannot control my feelings. How an external being, and not even, as sophisticated as I am, a little child with less cognitive skills, less motor skills, whatever, everything is less, will create anger in me and then control it. She will control when it starts. She will control when it ends. How can you believe this? This is the question. This is the story here. And this conspiracy theory that I've been telling you.
Before getting there,
Okay, of course. Yeah, make it more suspension. Yeah.
So I guess for that, I mean, you're right. I might be just saying that, oh, since we are now in a religious environment, and I'm a good guy, yeah, it makes sense. We are just naming them as names. But if I stop there and do not take it serious, because actually, if I get convinced that, it's a very disturbing thing. This must be disturbing me. Next time when my daughter asks me why it is raining, or because it's water cycle, that answer must disturb me. That I would call as a conviction. Because if I'm aware of that, or as Birkan's example, next time when my daughter makes me upset, I call it my daughter made me upset, should disturb me. That answer should disturb me. If it starts disturbing me, then I would say, oh, wait a second. Yeah, something is happening in here, but the situation that I am in is being created by my maker. How do I read this in his name? Not in the name of things themselves without authority, but how do I read in his name? This is how I should start. This is the moment that I realized, or something started changing. So far, we are now at that moment of trying to get disturbed, at least. Get disturbed by those false namings, unsatisfactory namings. If I'm not getting disturbed, I 100% agree with you. Nothing has changed in my life. I'm just maybe getting some sort of a knowledge of being cool. When somebody comes up with a name, I would say, haha, Birkan, you're making a mistake. You just named it. But I'm also naming the name, so I live life without it. So I guess the first step is to get disturbed by that. And that disturbance is the key for me to search for a satisfactory explanation and meaning behind things. So when something good or bad happens, then I will try to read it in the name of the one with authority, rather than trying to read it in the name of things themselves. So this, I think, can take us back to what Haidar was saying. Which names? Which name is human taught? So I can name the names of things, but also I can tie them to the names of the Creator. If I stay at the names of the things, so for example, for the rain, if I say, oh, it's rain, then I just named it as a name. But if I say, oh, this is Rahma, then it's a totally different story. Seeing the name rain and naming it as Rahma, or seeing it as Rahma, the mercy of the Creator, this is what it means Adam is taught names. Adam is taught the ability to call rain as Rahma. Like, as an Adam, son of an Adam, Haidar is given the ability to name rain as Rahma, like the ability to see Rahma, mercy within the rain, mercy of the Creator within the name. So named in this sense is not simply just the linguistic language or the vocabulary that Adam is taught. It's rather ability to learn, but learn what? Is it sciences? No, learn the Creator. Where am I making this up from? اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. So this was the very first revelation. Read in the name of your Lord. Which name am I going to read? Read the existence, but read it in the name of your Lord. Read the rain, but once you read it, what you will understand, because you will translate it in your head, right? You should translate it as Rahma, the mercy of my Creator. But I guess at this level, as Birkan said, we are still at the level of getting disturbed by just naming it a name and saying that, oh, the matter is settled, it's just rain. Come on, nothing more than that. Or it's nastiness of my daughter, end of the story.
And nothing more of than part, I guess, the most important part. And this is the conspiracy I've been referring to. So all your life, you were trained, and I'm not only talking about, the education system, science, and so on and so forth, everything around you. You were taught, you were trained not to question. You were trained to just follow the certain names, hear them, and say that, okay, now it's explained, there's nothing to be worried about. Just like, special animals, let's make it more even dramatic. You were specifically trained. Every time you hear a name, you would say, okay, I don't want to question anymore. That's how you were trained. And today, when you hear a name, you don't question. Everything is so ordinary now. There's nothing extraordinary there. Like all the water is coming from sky, like the rain, right? When we say rain, it sounds so ordinary. I don't know how many tons of water coming from sky. Gentlemen, come on. Water being poured from the sky. Isn't it extraordinary? Question it. How just the name of rain prevent you to feel this excitement? It does, because you were trained this way. You and your forefathers, they are responsible. You are responsible. And it's the very conscious decisions that we make. As he said, he consciously trains his daughter in this way so that she doesn't question, because he cannot handle the questions. He doesn't know the answers. Hence, he has to prevent her from questioning as well.
Just because.
Just because, yes. Otherwise, his authority will be questioned. We have to prevent all, new generations from questioning. Otherwise, our authority will be questioned. And we do consciously, again, train our generations, new generations this way. Water coming from the sky. And you're not shouting, you're not crying, you're not, surprised. You just call it rain. And you also said, mud as well. Let me get inside. But to me, this is the biggest conspiracy of centuries.
Yes, I was gonna say, I agree, that's the first step to be disturbed. But even to do that, we need to first acknowledge what is right and what is wrong to even be disturbed, or kind of like do tawbah, right? If we know what is wrong, then we have a chance that with that disturbance, that Allah can have rahmah and help us on that path. And I was contemplating about how does that drinking, Sister Aisha was asking, tea, change my experience, whether I say, acknowledge that it is made by the creator, or it's just doing it by itself. So, I think the experience is going to be changed a lot more. But if you don't know what you're losing or what to be disturbed at, you will not even realize what you're missing. The experience that you could have had, that's going to be much more of an ease than just what the tea is giving you, right? Because when you give it to the true attribute of the name of the creator, then you're just not drinking that tea anymore. You're in so much more connection. Otherwise, everything is just becoming very kind of mechanical. And yes, you are getting, but that's about it. There's nothing more to life, just getting those temporary pleasures here and there. And it is kind of difficult because it's like, how do you correct that misassociation of the cause and effect of you drinking the tea, and then after that, somehow you're feeling the ease? Because it looks so close to each other that cause and then the result and effect of it are like next to each other, that when you drink the tea, you feel good. It looks as if the tea is giving that, or whatever name that we give is being we are attributing that name to give the effect. But in reality, we know that it is not possible for that tea to have such knowledge, care, love, and everything to make it perfect for our digestive system and for our tummy and feelings to feel such a way. So we know through that questioning that this could not be it. And even if you feel so good with the ease of the tea, what else do you do with that feeling now? Is there anyone else that you can share it with or appreciate it with? That, oh, we all feel the same way, that's so nice. But to take it a level higher and share it with much more of a relationship, right? Than something as non-living as a tea is, I think, a big difference in experience, beyond the tea, moving beyond the tea. Yeah, and I think that's the most important is like, we are saying we're giving these names because this is kind of like the imtihan, right? The challenge that we must face with what we see in front of us versus the true reality of the universe, right? Because we see the rain is coming down or someone is giving us, it seems like they are doing it. So, but that is where we have to, I guess, use our knowledge and question, and which you said we have to untrain ourselves maybe, so that we know that even though Allah is creating the effect, at the same time, because the cause and effect are being created at the same time, it seems that the effect is coming from the cause. But if we don't only look at with our eyes, say, hey, the fire burns, or water is coming from the sky, water cycle, then it is not like what we are given. We are human to think. It's like animalistic, right? You just see and say, okay, this is it. Or you don't even think beyond it. Even animal knows and runs away from, the cat runs away from the water or the fire. Like they know that much too. So I think that misassociation.
So from now on, unfortunately, we cannot accept any more comments. We don't have much time. We will only accept questions. Okay? To you, especially. Only questions. Should we continue? Yeah.
I just have one small example.
Yeah, please.
So at the end of 90s, there were a lot of murders in Turkey, a murder without who knows what the killer was.
I mean, we knew what the killer was, but anyway.
So there was one famous Jewish businessman, like Jews of Istanbul, they're wealthy people. So that man was killed in the graveyard. And they accused a homeless person for that. So once you listen to it, you say, well, this sounds so funny. Like, I mean, okay, you found the name, you just said that, okay, this, and nobody is going to chase you because homeless is a homeless. Nobody's going to fight for his justice, right? It's just no one, you just kill them and then. So you would laugh at this. But we put a name. We needed a name to accuse someone for this murder because it's a dirty murder for sure. A lot of things are behind the scenes. It's a politically important person, a rich person, a Jewish person within that society. It's a big deal. Okay, just give it a name. Of course, no sane person would believe in that. But with media and everything, and after enough number of times that name is repeated, the guy became the killer. And so, or again, in Middle East, everything that happens because of external forces, like some hidden countries and whatnot, is our economy is so horrible because of that sort of a thing. Yeah. So, I mean, this sort of naming in the political sphere is there, and anybody with a little bit of sanity would say that, you're right? But when it comes to my personal life, drinking tea, or I don't know, my anger towards my child, it is the same naming, and it is still the same thing.
And what we are doing is nothing but inventing. Let's continue from there. And so the next part is the obstinacy of inventors. How we insist in falsehood. And here comes the ayah. Oh, go ahead, please.
قال الملأ الذين كفروا من قومه إنا لنراك في سفاهة وإنا لنظنك من الكاذبين.
So it starts with, let's keep it short for the sake of time. It starts with the eminent ones, Mala, like قال الملأ الذين كفروا. So the eminent ones, the famous ones, the ruling, I don't know, the elites or anyone just in front of your eyes on TVs, the social media, whatever. And they are always kafaru. That's for granted. So there's this, from a societal point of view, there's this trend that there's always these eminent ones leading this naming, let's say, the trend. But I guess the interesting part is maybe the second part. And let me see the next ayah as well. Yeah, maybe we can read this as well and then discuss together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
قالوا يا هود ما جئتنا ببينة وما نحن بتارك آلهتنا عن قولك وما نحن لك بمؤمنين. They said, O Hud, you have not brought us clear evidence, and we are not ones to leave our gods on your say-so, nor are we believers in you.
So this ma jitana bibayinati part is the important part, which is like you didn't bring us anything clear. Right? Let's also this part as well.
وتلك عاد جهدوا بآيات ربهم وعصوا رسله واتبعوا أمر كل جبار عنيد. And that was Ad, as if this is the summary of Ad in a few words, who knowingly rejected the signs of their Lord and disobeyed his messengers and followed the order of every obstinate tyrant.
And then here, maybe the most important part, at least within this context, is the jahadu part. Like rejecting something, but you reject something when you know it. It's not that, oh, I didn't know. It's like it's in front of you and you reject it. It's knowingly denying. Okay? So the jahadu bi ayati rabbihim wa asaw rusulahum. Sorry. Yeah. Let's keep this in mind. This part as well. Ma jitana bi bayinati. And then the green part, indeed we see you in foolishness, and indeed wa inna lanazuk. Oh, okay. Yes. No, the second part. Like, yes. لَنَظُنُّكَ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ. Sorry for my, yeah. So we assume you as among the liars. Okay? So this is usually our attitude, right? Like there's someone comes to us telling us that or Yusuf, you're just naming things. You're not explaining things. These are just made up names and they don't have any authority. Let me explain, let's, explore the truth together, or let me teach you the right way to read the universe, the reality, your life, and so on. And your attitude is usually that, what are you talking about, Birkan? You're not giving me anything, like you're not giving me anything clear. You're not giving me any evidence. And I'm looking at you and, you are nothing but a liar, meaning you are like you have a low status. Right? You're not even, if like the scientist example is always the best one. You're not even, good in your career. You're not even in a good position. Exactly. You don't even have, enough citations, or you don't have any title. Who you are to teach me something.
And in this case, especially, who is speaking? Prophet is speaking. How does Prophet do? Prophet comes and says, I bring you message from the Creator. What does scientist do? He gets into the lab, works, and learns by himself. So now somebody comes and says, Zakaria, and for the sake of argument, comes and tells me revelation. And I say, you're not coming with explanations to me. It's not clear evidence of anything. I am the guy who is working in the lab. I am the one who explains the things. Yet you are accusing me by calling it just names. Like now the scientist is being accused as just calling names. And then scientists, in this example, to make it clear, in return, accuses messenger saying that, oh, you are just telling me about the God of gaps. Because you are calling it names, actually. Isn't this how in today's society religion is taken? The parts that we are not able to explain with science, you call it God. For the rest, we explain it. Hud alayhi salam is changing the table, or just exact opposite, saying that you are calling it names. It doesn't explain anything. What you do is just calling it names without any authority. It doesn't explain what's going on. You're just hiding. By calling it a name, you're hiding a huge meaning behind the scenes.
And so, it's not even, you are foolish. Minal kazibin. Like, you're just lying. You made up these explanations. Oh, there's a creator, there's a Lord, whatever, whatever. And I'm exploring the reality, right? This is what we hear all the time. And again, the second part, majitana bibayinati. Like, you're not putting anything on the table. Like, what are you saying? Yes, okay, we calling it name. Am I supposed to not call it rain anymore? What is your explanation? And whatever you say doesn't make sense. You're just, making up stories. And unfortunately, most of the time as religious people, we do make up stories. Like every time we talk about the religion, it's usually about the stories. Oh, but, centuries ago, there was a guy who named, the Moses, he did this and that. The Quran also talk about the stories. But as we study here, you see that these stories are not actually historical stories. It's about us. And it perfectly matches our reality. So we have to see whatever we say, whatever we get from the Quran, we have to realize that there is something like it is a bayinah, it is so clear what is explained here. Name without sultan we talked about, for instance, right? So rain comes and the flowers flourish. How can you believe that? Quran says the water give you life to flowers, right? I say it cannot give. And the answer is you are lying. It does. How does it give the life? Look, there's rain and there's life. I explained it. So the lying part or not coming with the bayina, actually it is always the accusation from the eminent ones, right? But this is what it goes with them, with such explanations actually. Every time I say rain comes and the flower flourish, I'm just telling lie, nothing more. Nothing clear there. How it happens, I ask. How water gives lives and then more names are thrown. Oh, don't you know this, there's cell, it gets like water, it is called whatever, osmosis and so on and so forth. Now, I have more things to be excited about now. There are more, the mysteries that needs to be explained. You're not making it any clear. You're actually making it more complex now. Before, I had to only explain water and the life. Now, I have to also explain cell, the cell membrane, the osmosis, everything needs to be explained now. You are giving me more mystery and you claim that you demystify things. This is the biggest lie.
Yeah. So I guess in this sense, God of gaps, and let's check ourselves. Is this my understanding of, because this is how religion is being depicted even in today's society. Religion is just putting a name to unexplainable phenomena, saying that it's God, and the rest, we scientists explain what it is, and eventually we will explain everything, and there's not going to be left a single thing that you have to be attributing to God. This is the mindset. You didn't bring us any evidence. You didn't come with clear things. You're just coming up with mystical explanation and just wrapping things around some unseen mystical things, and then making people afraid. This is how you're trying to make people accept. This is the general accusation towards religion. Hud alayhi salam is saying it's just the exact opposite.
It's just the exact opposite, which reminded me the story of Musa alayhi salam as well, where when magicians are mentioned, magicians with their tricks in this story, I don't remember the exact word being used, but with their trickery, they make the audience afraid. So, like, you are afraid to question all these technical jargons, all these intellectual, the explanations and so on thrown to you, and you afraid to question. You're afraid to ask, wait a second, are you claiming that the water gives life? Gives life? Is that what you are saying? You are afraid to ask this question. Because with their trickery, magic tricks, they make you get, afraid, feel scared.
You don't want to appear dumb.
Exactly.
If you ask that question, which is elephant in the room, you have to ask that question, but you don't ask it because nobody is asking. All those smart people are not asking it, so probably it's a self-evident truth that I'm unaware of. Let me not touch it.
So you don't want to be seen as fi safahati, right? Among these losers, let's say. You don't want to be seen that way. And this is the ideology that you have to face. So now, the example was about, let's say, a stereotypical scientist and a stereotypical believer. It's just to make things, of course, easier. But now let's look at ourselves. You have let's say, a problem with your parents. May Allah forbid. But our dear friend Zarar has a problem with his father. He had a fight and then calls, let's say, Qadir, and then explains everything. And Qadir asks, so what did you get out of it? From this experience, what did you get out of it? Qadir says, nothing. My father just acted, unreasonably. He refused to, give me this or that, and I'm angry. You say, but don't you think this anger is created in you? And even your actions of your fathers are created as a, like a movie scene in front of you. So it's a training for you, right? Qadir says. And what would be Zarar's response? Qadir, you are taking too far, right? You are just being foolish. You're not talking clear. You're not talking, it doesn't make much sense.
Let's not be naive.
Let's not be naive. It's just my father and me. Let's try to solve this problem. I have a real problem. I have a practical problem. That's usually the response.
Or even he would say, so what? Shall I just stand there and let him beat me up? Is that what you say? Which Qadir didn't say such a thing, but to push back, I guess this would be Zarar's argument.
Exactly the same arguments. Like when you think about it, it's not clear what you are saying, Qadir. Like, give me something practical. Give me something bayina. Should I call my father or not? This is our attitude all the time. So it's not about some atheist friends or atheist people hating us and trying to destroy us, it's us as well. And then last, we have 3 minutes, I guess, and it's good enough time. So we already covered this, actually. Like, and to Ad, we sent their brother Hud. He said, "O my people, worship Allah. You have no deity other than Him. I'budullaha ma lakum min ilahin ghayruhu." So other than Him, you don't have any ilah. Okay? So this is very interesting. Like when you think about it, and the next one, they said, "Have you come to us so that we should worship Allah alone? Lina'budullaha wahdahu?" Only Allah? Is that what you mean? And then leave what our fathers have worshipped? So do we want us, leave everything else, only worship Allah? Some of our gods have possessed you with evil. So we have multiple gods. And then Hud says, whatever you associate with Allah other than Him, I am free from. So he is talking not to atheists, the Hud alayhi salam in this story. He's talking to people who says they believe in Allah. Allah is there for them, along with some other gods as well. So there's a council.
Actually, today during the breakfast, we had this conversation with Haidar. So he was saying that now that I'm working in Drexel, before I was at Penn, he was saying that, well, do you see the difference between like Penn people being more liberal and less, like more secular, and Drexel more? My observation was people at Penn are not secular when they're by themselves. Like in a meeting environment, in a university environment, everybody's so cool and religious, and gods are so apart from their life. No such thing.
From every pocket, there's, the religious code.
I mean, they are so irreligious when they're in university, and religion is such a lowly thing when you are at a university setup. But when you're one-to-one with those people, you do see that there is a God of some sort in everybody's life. But then the rest is additional. So this, how would I say, hardcore atheist, I don't know how many of them is out there. Very few. Everybody has somewhat of a God somewhere in their lives. And seeing this at Penn was an unexpected experience for me, because those are the very cool professors, which are just like science explains everything type of people. But once you see the real life starts kicking in, then any people and every people say, oh yeah, there must exist a superpower, call it a name, another name, but there is somewhat of a God in people's lives. But then there are multiple other gods, as we have been discussing so far. So this is depicting, again, Hud alayhi salam's audience. There is a council of gods, as if, like, God is also on the table, but other gods. And then there's this attributing partners, like whenever, and it's not like a consistent model. It's not like, oh, this portion belongs to God. No, whenever I want to attribute things to that God, I attribute it to that God. And tomorrow I'm not good with it for whatever reason, because now it is Monday, 8 a.m. I am at school. Now I take God off that seat, put another law and name I put there, and until 5 p.m. I go with that God. This is how I mean, this is for the scientist version at Penn, but me, no different. I do attribute things to Allah time to time, and some other time I say, oh, what a bright idea I came up with. Like, I start changing who is playing that role.
Just a reminder, we are using a Penn Zoom account,
Okay.
and the stream has a Penn logo on it.
Is that okay?
So, I'm also affiliated with, so maybe we should be careful with the examples. So when it comes to us, like in, for instance, the Zarar example, he has a fight with or a situation with his parents, and he's trying to resolve it. Qadir, being his, let's say, reasonable friend, trying to remind him that this is something between you and your Lord, your God, the Creator, Allah. And Zarar says, what are you talking? Like, with every experience, should I only think about Allah? Like, only Him? There is my father, my relationship with my father. It's about my father and me. And Qadir insists, no, it has to be only Allah. Only Allah. And this is our attitude. What do you mean with only Allah? Like, there are other, the factors as well. So the Hud alayhi salam in this story is talking to us who refuse to consider Allah alone in every experience. Refusing to take every experience, kulli, no exception, experience as a training for you from your Lord. We refuse that. We include other factors in our explanations. We use other names in our explanations. And Hud is talking to us now. Qadir, you should check yourself. This time it's you, not Zarar. So you have to be careful. Let's conclude with your beautiful final remarks, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. So let me finish with the dua. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم من الحمد لله